I'm Nyakwa. This story is entitled The Girl, and it's a story I wrote for my fiction writing one class. So, to be quite honest, you did not know how you got yourself wrapped up with that girl, but you knew it was one of the best and worst things that could happen to you. You never had a relationship with her. You did not even know her name. The thought of being so enchanted by her presence without knowing the slightest thing about her was a questionable one. It bothered you. In fact, it filled you with something you could not quite identify, but you did not dislike it. Rather, you liked it a lot. Yet, you knew nothing about her, but that didn't mean you didn't want to. You saw her every morning when the world would ready its inhabitants for their daily travels. She would sit outside on her stoop before dawn arrived to greet the early birds, cross-legged with her natural hair pulled back into a ponytail. Most days she would have in headphones, bobbing her head to whatever played in her ears. Other days she would have various items to occupy her time. However, she always sat there on the stoop. She would watch as the early morning rush would commence its early staging, turning her head to see every car that drove slowly down the dark, luminous block you shared. Her face carried little sentiment, yet it was never crestfallen. A dulcet smile would pull at the corner of her lips at random moments, which would make you wonder what could bring such a becoming woman that kind of happiness. And the knowledge of that kind of happiness you would gladly have liked to know. So just maybe you could always share it with her. You'd contemplate approaching her. You wanted to approach her, indeed, for reasons unbeknownst to you. Perhaps you just wanted to hear her euphonious voice. Perhaps you wanted to share with her the most serene instance of the dawn. But you would always back down, the thought leaving your mind as fast as it arrived. But between your sights of the street lighting off and often, one you dared not cross. Occasionally, she would gaze up from her position to look around, reminiscing with her surroundings as if she'd returned from a faraway place, and her eyes would lock on your stoop. That slight action alone would rouse a scintilla which would ripple through your body, but lo and behold, she wouldn't be looking at you, no. Rather, she'd be staring at an invisible spot, a cynosure that seemed to hold her eyes captive. As bad as it sounded, you'd be envious, resentful that whatever quality that cynosure had to keep hold of her admiration you didn't have. Then in almost an instant, she would be back to her previous state. As the morning turned to day, the block would become busier, filled with the laughter of children and the honking of cars. Voices of the occupants of the block would call out random greetings to others. However, during that time, she would always leave the stoop, and you'd wonder why. Why she always chose to remain inside once the morning ended. What did she not like about the day that she liked about everything else? Did she not enjoy the day or the people who passed? Did she prefer the calmness of the dawn to the busyness of the day? You'd go about your day thinking about her, about the quietness that possessed her, about the calmness you saw as a glove that fit her perfectly, about the loneliness that seemed to surround her, about the way she'd always be preoccupied with nature. Occasionally, your eyes would find its way back to her stoop, silently hoping that she'd return. But she wouldn't, not until it got dark anyway. You saw her every night at the peak of dusk when the block would once return to the state of luminescence, when the chirping of birds was replaced with the sound of insects and the light of fireflies could be seen, when the darkness of the night carefully caressed the empty streets. She'd take her place on the stoop once more, cross-legged with her natural hair pulled back into a ponytail. She would either have in headphones bobbing her head to the music, or she'd have a various item to occupy her time, but she always sat there on the stoop, and you could only watch.